Welcome to episode 24 of the Resurrection Podcast. I am Acusio Bivona. Let's talk man to man today about a specific operational reality you'll inevitably face as your empire scales. You're a highly capable executive. You're built to handle high stakes friction. If the market dips, you pivot. If a key player on your team resigns, you replace them. If you take a hit, you absorb it, you adapt, and you keep executing. You know how to solve a singular problem with absolute precision. But as your reach expands and your responsibilities compound, you'll eventually experience a polycrisis. A polycrisis is an event where multiple massive friction points hit your executive system architecture at the exact same time. The Q3 revenue suddenly drops by 30%. Your most trusted partner hands in their notice. You sustain a physical injury that sidelines your training, and your wife tells you she feels completely disconnected from you. All in the exact same week. When this happens, the standard executive advice is simply to work harder, put your head down, and carry the load. We're going to take a much more efficient route. Today, we're going to audit exactly what happens to your biological infrastructure during a polycrisis. We're going to talk about optimizing straight through the center of it. We'll look at the exact sequential framework required to triage the system, stabilize your baseline, and rebuild your momentum without burning a single ounce of unnecessary metabolic energy. You're already a proven operator. A polycrisis is simply a high-level load test. Let's make sure your architecture passes the test. First, we need to look at the physical reality of what actually happens inside your body when multiple systems catch fire simultaneously. Think of your daily cognitive bandwidth as a highly advanced, highly efficient processor. When you face a singular business challenge, your executive function isolates the data, builds a strategy, and executes. It uses a very predictable, manageable amount of your daily fuel. It's like a heavy but perfectly balanced deadlift. You brace your core, you lift the weight, and you set it down. But a polycrisis is an asymmetrical shifting load. When you get hit from 4 different directions at once, your brain registers a massive, compounding biological threat. The sheer volume of incoming stress overloads your processing capacity. You only have 100 units of executive bandwidth to spend in a day, and suddenly the environment is demanding 400. When the demand vastly exceeds the supply, your body's alarm system trips. Your endocrine system floods your bloodstream with stress chemicals. Your resting heart rate spikes. Your breathing becomes shallow, and your physical tension skyrockets. Your body is incredibly intelligent. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do to keep you alive. Physiologically, it's preparing for physical combat. But this biological shift moves your energy away from your strategic, long-term decision-making centers and pushes you into a highly reactionary state. You develop tunnel vision. You lose the ability to see the whole board. And you can't build a 5-year revenue strategy, or you certainly can't repair a fractured connection with your wife when your biology thinks you're in a street fight. To lead effectively through a polycrisis, you must first stabilize the physical body. You have to regulate your physiology before you can solve the logistics. So when a high-earning man gets hit with a polycrisis, he typically defaults to one of 2 highly predictable reactions. And these aren't failures of character. They're just highly inefficient software programs running under extreme pressure. Let's look at the telemetry of these archetypes so you can identify if this software is currently running in your own system. First, we have the reactive operator. This is the founder who confuses motion with progress. When the polycrisis hits, he attempts to solve every single problem simultaneously. He has 4 massive fires burning, and he runs between them, throwing a little bit of attention on each one. He fires off an aggressive email to his legal team from his phone, immediately walks into the kitchen to try and have a deep emotional conversation with his wife in a 5-minute window, and then rushes back to his laptop to rewrite his Q4 marketing strategy. He's executing rapidly, but he has absolutely zero leverage. Because his cognitive bandwidth is split 4 ways, he's applying a 25% solution to a 100% problem. A rushed 25% conversation with his wife only creates more friction. A 25% marketing pivot is just a Band-Aid. And by the end of the week, his physical readiness drops. His sleep becomes incredibly shallow, and all 4 problems are still actively burning. He's moving fast, but traveling nowhere. Then we have the sacrificial founder. When the polycrisis hits, this executive decides he must personally carry the entire weight of the world, and he views his own suffering as the currency required to buy the solution. To buy more time at his desk, he trades away his physical fuel. He stops going to the gym because he tells himself he doesn't have time. He starts sleeping 4 hours a night. He fuels his body with garbage over his keyboard. He sacrifices his own physical baseline, operating under the assumption that his personal deterioration is required in order to save the empire. That's a complete operational fallacy. The most efficient way to solve a massive external crisis is to secure your internal infrastructure first. When the sacrificial founder abandons his physical standards, his intrinsic resilience drops. His body locks up. He loses his physical presence. His baseline energy evaporates, and he becomes a completely depleted version of the man who built the company in the first place. Now, both of these men want to win, but they're misallocating their resources. In a polycrisis, your first objective is never to fix the external problems immediately. Your absolute first objective is to secure the machine that solves the problems. You must protect that asset. Let's look at exactly why highly intelligent, highly successful men fall into these inefficient archetypes when the pressure spikes. It comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of how your focus actually operates. You're an expert juggler. In a standard, optimized operating environment, you're actively rewarded for spinning plates. You approve a wire transfer, review the Q2 marketing deliverables, and confirm the logistics for a family trip, all before your first cup of coffee. You have the capacity to keep multiple projects moving forward simultaneously without breaking a sweat. Because this works so well in peacetime, your brain is wired to believe that speed equals efficiency. You naturally assume this exact same strategy will work during a system-wide crisis. You think your intellect can simply outpace the threat if you just move fast enough. But a polycrisis isn't a collection of small tasks. It's a collision of massive, high-gravity threats. When you attempt to spin those plates, you don't just lose focus. You leak massive amounts of energy. So let's look at the physical reality of this transition. You get off a brutal, high-stakes 45-minute call with your legal team. Your physical state is elevated. Your jaw is tight. Your breathing is shallow. 2 minutes later, you walk into the kitchen to help your kids with their homework, or you sit down to talk to your wife. You think you've switched gears simply because the laptop is closed. But you haven't, because your body is still running the boardroom software. You carry that exact same aggressive, contracted, physical tension straight into your living room. So you snap over a minor inconvenience, or you cause unnecessary friction. You're burning an incredible amount of energy trying to force your own biology to instantly jump between a state of war and a state of deep connection. So you can't multitask your way out of a polycrisis. The weight of the situation demands a far more deliberate, highly leveraged operational strategy. So before you can fix the external logistics, before you answer a single email or make a single pivot, you have to execute a massive shift in your perspective. You have to find your anchor point. When the system catches fire from 4 different directions, the external environment will scream at you to react. Your inbox, your board of directors, and even your own ego will demand immediate compliance. The pressure tells you that you must force a solution right this second. The absolute most powerful, highly leveraged decision you can make in that exact moment is to refuse to comply with the chaos. Because you must recognize a fundamental truth about your executive system architecture. You are not your company. You are not the Q3 revenue. You are not the supply chain. Your primary asset is you. It's the engine that built those things. It's your clear head, your physical energy, and your absolute composure. Think about it like driving a high-performance car. If you're going 120 miles per hour and all the warning lights on the dashboard suddenly flash red at the same time, you don't keep your foot on the gas and try to change the oil while you're steering. You have to pull the car over, and you have to secure the engine. If your primary asset is compromised by a lack of sleep, shallow breathing, and fractured attention, then every single decision you make will be compromised. An exhausted, reactive founder can't save a burning empire. He will only accelerate the damage by making impulsive, fear-based pivots. So you have to locate your baseline. You have to pull your attention completely off the external fires and point it 100% inward at the machine that actually solves the problems. You must secure the operator before you attempt to save the operations. Now let's look at exactly how you navigate this overload. When multiple systems fail at the exact same time, you can't rely on your standard daily operating procedure. You have to execute a biological triage. Excuse me. Think about a high-level medical trauma center. When a patient comes through the doors with multiple severe injuries, the surgeons don't try to set a broken arm while the patient is actively losing oxygen. They secure the airway, they stabilize the vital signs, and they stop the bleeding. Only when the baseline is secure do they start fixing the mechanics. You must apply this exact same logic to your executive system architecture. When the Q3 numbers drop, your key executive quits, and the friction at home spikes all in the exact same 48-hour window, your very first move has absolutely nothing to do with your business operations. Your first move is a hard stop. You implement a strict 24-hour freeze on all major strategic decisions. You don't send the aggressive email to your board. You don't attempt to restructure the company. You don't try to fix your marriage in a highly charged 5-minute conversation in the kitchen. And I know what you're thinking. You might think that stepping away from the board during a crisis is a sign of weakness or surrender. It's the exact opposite. It's an assertion of absolute control, because you're dictating the pace of the engagement. You take that 24 hours to aggressively clear the tension out of your body and reclaim your executive function. You get 8 hours, or the most that you can, of absolute non-negotiable sleep. You hydrate. You get under a heavy barbell, or you push yourself through a demanding physical conditioning session to physically burn off the stored stress. You eat clean, highly optimized food. In that, you're securing the asset. You're proving to your own body that regardless of what the market is doing, the physical machine is safe, highly capable, and fully online. Once your physical baseline stabilizes, the smoke clears. Your cognitive bandwidth returns, and you look at the board again, and because you are no longer in a reactionary state, those 4 massive fires suddenly look like 4 standard logistical equations. You have your leverage back. And now that the physical machine is secure, we execute the rebuild. The fatal flaw of the overloaded executive is trying to solve 4 problems by applying 25% of his bandwidth to each one. To win against a polycrisis, you don't multitask. You execute sequentially. You line the fires up single file. You take 100% of your highly optimized executive function and you point it directly at problem number 1. You neutralize it. You completely close the file. Closing that first file is critical because it instantly frees up your processing power. So then you take that momentum and you move 100% of your energy to problem number 2. Let me show you exactly what this looks like in the real world. Let's look at Marcus. He's 46 years old and the founder of a highly successful logistics firm. He's a proven high-level operator. Last year, Marcus caught a massive polycrisis. Within a single week, a major international supply chain route froze, his VP of sales walked out to join a competitor, and the compounding stress finally boiled over at home because his wife told him she was completely exhausted by his absence and felt totally disconnected from the man she married. As you may expect, Marcus initially defaulted to reacting to everything at once. He was trying to recruit a new VP on his phone at midnight, sending frantic emails to international vendors at 2 a.m., and trying to patch things up with his wife over rushed, tense dinners. His sleep was destroyed, his physical readiness tanked, and his energy was entirely chaotic. He was bleeding bandwidth and losing ground on all 3 fronts. He applied for a system diagnostic, and we immediately deployed the foundational framework of the resurrection protocol. And one of the things that we did was we executed the biological triage. I told Marcus to implement a hard stop. We stabilized his sleep and got him back in the gym to clear the physical tension. We secured the machine. Then we lined the problems up sequentially. His first target, the marriage. Because he had stabilized his physical baseline, he was able to sit down with his wife, not as a frantic, stressed out CEO, but as a grounded, powerful man. He didn't try to buy his way out of the friction with a vacation. He simply offered her a calm, regulated presence to anchor to. He listened without reacting. That immediate shift in his energy stabilized his home front. His second target, the personnel issue. With his home secure and his mind clear, he then took 100% of his clarity and looked at his sales team. Instead of rushing an external hire out of pure panic, he could see the board clearly. He promoted a hungry, highly capable internal director who had been waiting for the shot. Then the third target, the supply chain. With a unified team behind him and a clear head, he navigated the logistical bypass in a matter of days. Marcus didn't just survive the polycrisis. He used it as a load test to prove exactly how formidable his architecture really is. He optimized right through the center of the storm, and he came out the other side with a stronger marriage, a more loyal executive team, and a leaner, more resilient physical body. You are almost certainly going to face a polycrisis at some point. Operating at your altitude, I would say, guarantees it. And when it hits, you can't afford to sacrifice your physical fuel, and you can't afford to split your cognitive bandwidth. A highly successful executive doesn't panic when the system catches fire. He secures his body, he lines up the targets, and he executes. If you look at your current operations and realize you're trying to fight multiple fires simultaneously, if you're carrying the load at the expense of your own physical and emotional presence, it's time to optimize the framework. Go to coachkuz.com and apply for the resurrection strategy call. I will be your red team. We will audit your exact response to high-level friction. We will locate exactly where your bandwidth is leaking, and we will install the exact architecture of the resurrection protocol to ensure that the next time the market tests you, your presence remains absolutely undeniable. Tune the engine, rebuild the machine, resurrect the man. I am Acusio Bivona, and I will see you in the work.